What's up, everybody? This is Jose with Oakland Latinos United, a.k.a. Oakland Latinos Unidos, out here in the house of a friend, of an OG, a veteran from the Chicano movement of Oakland. And I've been wanting to interview him for a long time. He was part of the Chicano Revolutionary Party in Oakland, one of the organizations that worked with the Black Panthers. He was also part of the Chicano Moratorium, which was a famous protest that was about fighting against Chicanos going to the Vietnam War. He also knew Corky Gonzalez, and he went to Hayward, California, and he did his own TV show in Hayward called Barrio Expressions, which some of you might be able to see on YouTube. So, without further ado, introduce yourself. What's your name?
My name is Juan Antonio Espinosa. I was known back in the day as Big John.
And where were you born, Juan?
I was born in San Jose, California, raised in Oakland from 1954.
Okay. What part of Oakland did you grow up in?
West Oakland on 7th and Filbert.
And back then I was told by many people that West Oakland, at least a part of West Oakland, was the original Mexican barrio of Oakland.
Oh, yeah.
And that a lot of Mexicanos used to live in and around West Oakland at the time.
Yeah, because right there on 7th and Market, you had the Cantina, you had La Estrella movie theater, where my grandparents and my father used to work and bring in bands and do all that kind of good stuff.
What was your dad's name?
Juan Jaramillo Espinosa.
And he was a promoter at the Star Theater, correct?
That's correct.
What was the name of the guy who owned the Star Theater?
Julio.
Julio de Humano, right?
I believe so.
He was Panamanian, wasn't he?
Yeah.
I've heard that before. I read a little bit about him. And what kind of acts did they bring to the movie theater?
Well, my dad would bring in bands to play. They would on Saturday and Sunday nights, after the people finished watching the movies, they got together and they would play music in the nighttime from after maybe 9, 10 o'clock at nighttime.
And was your dad involved in Sweet's Ballroom as well?
Oh, yeah.
The guy that used to organize those was Guadalupe Carlos. Did you ever hear about him?
Yeah, the name's familiar.
Yeah, he was the promoter of the Sweet's Ballroom. And according to what I was told, they used to have the tardeadas there, which were the Sunday afternoon dances.
Okay.
At Sweet's Ballroom. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that. I know that was way back. You were probably a little kid when all that was going on.
Well, because my dad at St. Mary's Church in West Oakland, on 7th Street, they would have bands come in and play there. And my father, when he was alive, hired this boxer who won the middleweight championship of the world in 1952. His name was Lauro Salas. And Lauro worked for my dad and protected the money. And I saw someone go after him with a broken bottle, and he lit him up and fucked him up.
Yeah, man, sounds pretty crazy. Sounds like Oakland was already pretty wild back in those days.
Yeah.
And what was it like growing up in West Oakland?
West Oakland was cool. It was all Raza, a lot of Raza people there, some black families. But I knew a lot of Chicanos out there in that area.
Did you grow up going to places like Mexicali Rose, La Borriqueña,
oh, yeah,
Mi Rancho?
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember Don Luisito's pharmacy that used to be on 8th and Washington?
I think so.
The Mexican Farmacia?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been told stories about it. And you probably grew up going to Swans and Housewives Market.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I heard a lot of tales about West Oakland and how it was. Tell me a little bit about something. I heard that back in those days, they used to call the Chicanos Hondos. What was that all about? I've heard that from a lot of OGs.
Blacks were the Bloods. White boys were the Surfer Boys. And Chicanos were the Hondos.
Do you know why they call them Hondos?
No, I don't know.
Were they like pachucos? Or?
I think it was the style of dress with the hair.
Oh, how'd they dress? Like in khakis and stuff like that?
Yeah.
Were they like pachucos?
Yeah.
Okay. So that I've told people before that Oakland has a history with Pachucos as well. It's not just in LA; it also happened in the Bay Area as well. So I want to go a little bit further. I remember you telling me you went to school Tompkins, right, in West Oakland.
Yes.
And you told me that. Well, what did you tell me? You told me some stories about how they treated you being a Mexican kid.
When I was in first grade, the teacher said, "Find your name tag and have a seat." And I looked around and there was no name for Juanito. So I told the teacher, said, "Sit down." And I said, "I don't have a name tag." She goes, "Yes, you do. Your name is Johnny." I said, "Johnny?" I said, "No, my name is Juanito." She goes, "No, you're Johnny." I said, "No, my name is Juanito, like my dad." And she said, "No, your name is Johnny. Now sit down." I said, "No, that's not my name." And she slapped the crap out of me twice.
Wow.
Okay, this was back in 1958, and they used to be able to get away with murder back then, and they couldn't do that shit now.
Yeah. So basically, I heard stories that they would beat you up, like the teachers would punish you if you spoke Spanish.
Oh yeah, you were not allowed to hang out with other Mexican kids that speak Spanish, or else you would lose your rights to have recess.
Okay. Yeah, I heard a lot of stories about how the Oakland school system, and just the school systems in general back in those days was. So how was your, well, eventually you had a transition to East Oakland. How did you end up from West Oakland to East Oakland?
They tore down West Oakland.
That was during the urban renewal, right?
Yeah.
And when they built the 880 and all that?
Late 50s or early 60s. They sent everybody from West Oakland. They sent us to the San Antonio Village Project on 68th and off of San Leandro Boulevard.
So that's the 6-9 Bill, as they call it.
Yeah.
Where Felix Mitchell was from.
Correct.
And I know you know a lot about him. And how was it like growing up in the 6-9 Bill?
It was terrible. A lot of blacks. They had no respect for people. And I remember one time my father was out there and these black guys were giving them bad time, so he started to fight them. And they were getting the best of him, and my mom came out with her frying pan and started swinging at these guys. They had no idea what was going on.
Was there other raza living in the projects?
Oh yeah, but not a lot.
Not a lot. There was also another housing project I heard called the High Street Homes. Do you remember those?
Yeah.
Where were those located at?
That was further down on East 14th, going towards High Street.
Who lived there? Like raza, blacks, whites?
A lot of raza.
La raza. I've heard about those. They were by the High Street Bridge, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard about that. That's all long gone now. So you got involved in the Chicano movement heavily in Oakland.
Correct.
And that's the main reason why I wanted to interview you, because I want that story about the Chicano movement in Oakland. Obviously, we know that West Oakland was destroyed because they built the 880, the Cypress, they built the BART, they built the Acorn projects. They tore down a big chunk of West Oakland, and they moved a lot of raza to the Fruitvale area, to Jingletown, San Antonio Park area, where you lived in the 6-9 Bill, the High Street Homes also. So what got you? Well, let's talk about one thing. Let's talk about the death of Pinky de Vaca, or Charles de Vaca.
Correct.
And he died, in 1968? And
I believe so.
And how that sparked the Chicano movement. And let's talk a little bit about Latinos United for Justice, which is one of the reasons why my channel is called Oakland Latinos United. I actually named it after them. So how did that all come about?
Well, Pinky de Vaca was killed by the Oakland Police Department. They said he was stealing something, and they shot him to death. And Pinky de Vaca was my best friend Bernard de Vaca's older brother.
And he got killed over there by Calvin Simmons, right? Back then it was called Hamilton.
Yeah.
In that area. And how was the group Latinos United for Justice organized?
Well, once Pinky de Vaca was killed, that got the incentive for people to organize under the name of the Brown Berets.
Okay. And how did the Brown Berets was another organization that came to Oakland? How did they come to Oakland? Because they were originally from East LA. And what brought them to Oakland, or how did the chapter in Oakland get created?
After Pinky the Baca was killed, that got people involved. Bernard's older brothers, Davey and Philip, spearheaded that.
Did you know Alex Noonan and Manuel Delgado?
Yes.
They were part of the Brown Berets, correct?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I've heard about them. I heard that Noonan was like Filipino, right?
You're right.
Yeah, that's interesting. And what kind of work did the Brown Berets do in the community?
The Braves were there protecting and serving the community against the police department's harassment.
And what kind of work did the Latinos United for Justice do in the community?
The same thing. Same thing as the Braves.
And yeah, that's pretty interesting because these are stories that don't get talked about much. And yeah, I just want to bring it out. Can you tell people how the Oakland police was against black and brown people at the time?
Well, the Oakland Police Department recruited white people from down south to come in and terrorize on Chicanos and black people.
And what was the Oakland police known for doing? What was like their fame at the time?
Oh, taking you to their building, putting you in the basement and beating the crap out of you.
Did you ever have any incidents or run-ins with the OPD at the time?
I didn't. We would. I was a member of the CRP, the Chicano Revolutionary Party, and we would take pictures of the police department, and they would come at us full force.
Yeah, and I want to talk more about the Chicano Revolutionary Party. I'm going to stop the video for now because I want to make a part 2, if you don't mind.
Sure.
And we'll get into it about the Chicano Revolutionary Party and all that because I want to get into real deep details with the Revolutionary Party. But at the time, there were also organizations like the Black Panthers. Can you elaborate a little bit about the Black Panthers and your experience with them?
Well, the Black Panthers were real helpful to us. We had 3 breakfast programs, which they helped set up. So they taught us how to put things together to have a breakfast program. So we had one in Jingletown, one on Fruitvale and East 17th, and then one at the St. Mary's Church in West Oakland.
Okay, and where did you go to high school at the time?
I was a member of Casamana High School from 1967 to 1970. In my last year, I got kicked out of Casamana and was sent to Dewey Continuation. The reason I was kicked out was that we had organized, they had a Chicano rally to protest the Vietnam War in Hayward. And I organized about 60 Raza youth to leave the school and go to protest the war. When I got back, I was in ROTC, the Reserve Officer Training Corps. I was a second lieutenant. I was pretty high up there. And I wore a brown beret with my ROTC uniform. We went to the rally in
Hayward.
And we organized,
Yeah.
And when I got back, Sergeant Sergeant Dean said, Second Lieutenant is going to the front. Yes, sir. You should be proud of yourself. I admire you for speaking up for your people. But I can't have this in my ROTC, and I'm demoting you from a second lieutenant to a private first class.
Wow.
And Principal Carter wants to see you up front. So I go to the front. They said, "You're pretty funny taking out 60 students that cost me $600 per kid. You cost me a lot of money. And your alternatives are that you could stay here one more year and graduate a proud Casamont, or you can get kicked out and go graduate this year from Dewey continuation. Now at Casamont, I was the president of the Chicano Student Union, and then I went to Dewey High School. I started the Chicano Student Union there, and I became president of the Chicano Student Union. And one of our big claim to fame was that we had organized, along with the other schools, to protest the sale of grapes on the school lunch menu. And so we organized that, got it done, and made a presentation to the school board, and they removed selling grapes to the Oakland Unified School District because of our work.
Wow. So I'm out of time, so I'm going to do a part 2. We're going to pause. So hold that thought, and we'll be back with part 2.